your work across law, media, and education, which is truly unique, how can we ensure that youth voice is meaningfully embedded in global skills framework? Because we have now been going around talking about the skills, and you have seen across sectors.
Yeah, thank you so much to all the panelists who've gone before me. I really appreciate your feedback. Before I give my response, I think I will summarize everything you've said in terms of the systemic blind spots I have noticed. Number one, I think overall I'm capturing that there's a sidelining of out-of-school children and young people. Number two is skills mismatch. We see a lot of young people struggling to get into the workforce, and employers are saying that they have half-baked graduates. Number three, I might be picking up gendered and cultural barriers, issues like female genital mutilation when it comes to accessing employment, especially for women to access STEM careers. Number four is lack of data-driven needs assessment. I think my colleague from ILO talked about the importance of evidence when it comes to creating policies for young people. And number five, my colleague also mentioned the issues of governance structures. So from my work experience across law, media, and education, I find that there are various solutions when it comes to embedding the youth voice and ensuring that they're meaningfully embedded in global skills framework. Number one is institutionalizing youth participation in policy design. And by this I mean that youth inclusion must go beyond consultation to achieve active participation in policy formulation. I have been a youth advisor in various organizations, including Global Partnership for Education, Generation Unlimited. And what I have seen work very well is that you have young people advising the leaders on their lived experiences that have been mentioned before. So for example, when I was working at UNICEF, I worked directly with young people to develop a youth advocacy guide, because young people are asking, okay, this is what I want to do for my community, but how do I address policymakers? And so working with young people in East and Southern Africa, I managed to develop a youth advocacy guide, and therefore young people across the world are able to use this as a reference platform to enable them to understand aspects of policy advocacy and to impart similar skills to their peers. Number two, we talked about feedback mechanisms. My colleague here has really talked about digital platforms. As youth are increasingly participating in the digital platforms, TikTok, social media, we need to actively take their feedback. So what I have seen work on the ground is a platform called Unitalk in Kenya, where young people are able to use a chat functionality through Facebook Messenger and SMS to give feedback to international organizations. And young people are able to respond to a set of issues, and especially issues on employment. That way we are getting instant feedback. Number three, developing data-informed youth leadership programs. I will not overemphasize that because that has been mentioned a lot. But I'd like to give a good example of the King's College London that is working with young women across the world to train them on how to research, collect, and present data. One of the young women I have worked with who's advocating against the end of FGM in West Pokot County was trained on how to collect specific information for her community. And therefore, you're able to see these gender and cultural barriers to employment being reflected in reports. Number four, I am almost concluding, is the integration of intersectionality in skills policy. I have seen that young people are not a homogeneous group. So there are young people in rural areas, we have young women, we have children and young people. Some of them have disabilities. It's very important to look at all these issues and ensure that we are integrating all of them. So one good example I have seen working for children and young people is a digitally accessible textbook. We have textbooks, but are all children able to read them? And so when we are able to translate them into a digitally accessible textbook, then we ensure that children and young people who have visual impairments, hearing impairments, are also able to access the same information that their peers are accessing, and therefore they're able to transition into employment. And lastly, it's very important to create mechanisms for youth-led innovations in skills development. By this, I mean that global skills framework should continue to create youth-driven incubators where young people can propose, pilot, and scale new ideas. So this can also include peer-to-peer training and hackathons. I have seen this work very well on the ground as a Generation Unlimited youth leader, where I worked with young people across the world to collaborate with the governments and the private sector in the Generation Unlimited Challenge. And so we saw young people coming from all over the world pitching their ideas on climate issues, unemployment, gender barriers. And because of this, they were able to receive one-on-one coaching, not just at the national level, but the best ideas went up to the global level, and they received funding. And I have seen so many of them continue to pilot their ideas at the national level.
It was just two lovers, sitting in the car, listening to blonde, falling for each other. Pink and orange sky, feeling super traditional, down the clever. Missed call from my mother, I quit you at the night, got no all about it, I was all alone. With the love of my life, she's got glitter for skin, my radiant beaming the night. I don't need no light to see you shine. It's stronger than you. Slow down time in your golden. We were just two lovers, feet up on the deck, driving our fast, running through the summer. Ready on the blast, made the moment last, she got solar power. Made this fella always. She knows she with the baddest, can you even imagine for like? Oh my life, she's got a lot on her face, a glorious looking eyes. I was all alone with the love of my life. She's got glitter for skin, my radiant beaming the night. I don't need no light to see you shine.